Quilters, it's Pam from AccuQuilt. Okay, I just have to say that sometimes at AccuQuilt I get to test dies. Doesn't happen very often, but I got to test this die. I'd like to introduce you to our brand new studio die for a crazy quilt. So what I did was I took my layers of fabric, I cut it all up, and look, here's one of the blocks I sewed. So I have a whole bunch of these blocks ready to be able to make into a quilt. So let's talk about this die and how to use it. So first of all, it's our new studio dies, our two-tone foam. It's easy to see how to place that fabric. So we're gonna cut some fabric. I'm gonna show you how we're gonna sew it together, and then you can make this project behind me, which is our crazy quilt. One of the great things about this die is two things. First of all, it has that 1/4" seam built in. So sometimes when you do a stack and whack project, you have kind of wonky edges. Not us. We took that 1/4" seam and cut off the dog ears. So now it's going to finish to a perfect 10-inch block. Also, it's fat quarter friendly. So what I did was I used some fat quarters, and then I had just enough on the edge that I used it in my binding. So pretty slick. So let's cut some fabric and show you how to use it. So first of all, this is our die. It is our big studio die. You want to have the label be at your belly, lengthwise grain of the fabric back and forth across the die board. The reason is that lengthwise grain is really tight, okay? So I actually have my stack and know which way my lengthwise grain is. So you can cut up to 10 layers of cotton. So just think about how fast that is to cut 10 layers in one pass. So you want to take your charm packs. These are fat quarters, not charm packs. Okay, and I'm just gonna lay it right here over my shape. Okay, you wanna make sure that all 10 layers cover all the shapes. So with that two-tone foam, it's really easy to see all the way around. Okay, now because we're using studio dies, we need studio cutting plastic, okay? So we're gonna put our studio plastic on top. Look how pretty that is. I love new plastic. All right, so we're going to turn it. Look how easy. Okay, so if you want to take this plastic off, what you want to do is give it a little love. Otherwise, the static kind of builds up in it, and then all the pieces fly everywhere. And you want to slide that mat off. Look at how clever. So I'm going to just peel back what didn't cut. Bring your patience, okay? All right, because we want to keep them in the right order. Yep. Here we go. All right. There we go. Ta-da. All right. So quilters, think about this for a minute. Since this crazy quilt is just, we've taken all the pieces and mixed them up, what you're gonna do is take your pieces and just shuffle them, okay? So it doesn't matter which way you start to shuffle, but for example, on this one, I'm gonna take the first piece and put it underneath, and then I'm gonna take 2 pieces and put it underneath, okay? And then I'm just gonna shuffle them, because you want to have that great look of all the different pieces, okay? Now, after you have cut all your pieces for your quilt, and I'm going to tell you to cut all your pieces first, then what you want to do, and I'll show you here, then what you want to do is put them back onto the shape, so as you sew them together, you know which shapes go together, because sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're putting together a quilt, some pieces look the same. Trust me, okay? All right, so let's shuffle from there. This is such beautiful batiks, okay? And we're gonna leave that one there, look at that. Yellow and blues. So for me, this was a really great way to use up some of my stash that I had of fat quarters. So you can use your stash as well. All right. Now also quilters, I would tell you, included in every one of your new dies for the Crazy Quilt is how to cut and sew them. These instructions here, of all the patterns you want to read the instructions, this is one of those because all of these pieces are numbered, well actually by a letter, so you want to make sure you're sewing A and B together and C together and so on and so forth. Also, here's kind of a tip. So for example, this piece here is piece A. So you could actually take a little piece of painter's tape and put it down and then write the letter A, or you could take a silver Sharpie and write the letter A so that you knew that this was always the piece A, okay? There's no die police. You can write on your dies. It's amazing. Okay, so let's look over here at our Crazy Quilt. So I've already sewn a piece A and B together. So I'm gonna add that piece C, which is this fun little green piece just like this. See how that all works? And I would also tell you, quilters, that what you want to do is make sure that you have all of your pieces kind of set out so that you can put those sections together and sew them together even faster. All right, so I'm going to take my fabric right here. You want to make sure you get a good 1/4 inch seam. Okay. Okay. All right. So now, ta-da, look at that. So I'm going to follow the instructions and press the direction they tell me to press. So now look, here is A, B, and C. And then here's the other sections that we've sewn together. So our next step would be to sew these two pieces together, add this section here, and then the last section you would sew together would be A, B, and C. So quilters, you have a couple of different options when you're putting your blocks together. You can take, and like this sample here, she turned all of her blocks a different direction, so it kind of gives this really cool, funky look to it, which I love. Or you could actually take and make your blocks go all the same direction, whichever you would like to do. Also in this project, she used our 2.5 inch strip die to cut and put that great sashing in between. But when I made my Crazy Quilt, I just put all my blocks together. It looks super cool. Remember, we'd love to see your finished projects. You can post them at AccuQuilt.com. And at AccuQuilt, we help you cut time so you can quilt more.